Adam, you're my guinea pig for this new program that I got called EasyVid, and I'm hoping it's recording me and able to talk about some things. So I'm just going to work down from your paper, but there's going to be a couple of times where I go back and forth, and I hope I don't go so fast that it gives you seasickness, but I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly. Basically, this page is mostly in order, but on the header, excuse me, your running head is correct, but there aren't any quotation marks. So I thought I had track changes on for this, but I see that it's not doing that. So let me change again to make sure the track changes are on and that we got all markup and show markup and balloons to make sure we're seeing everything we can. So on here, we'll erase the two sets of marks there, and that basically is okay, though generally speaking, you don't really need both halves of this. Gender equality would be enough to help the printers know what page this is, and then they can look down and see that. So you don't really need both, but gender equality. And I'm going to move on down here. So up there you wrote the word athletic, but here you do not have that. Plus your spacing is a problem, so you need to get those matching. If you're going to leave athletic up here, then you need to put it here. But I really recommend taking that out altogether, and then if you want this to say athletic scholarships, you can. Also, it's just about right. You're going to think I'm really nitpicking here, but it's about 2 inches down from there. That should be centered, so I didn't do that very well. So come down about one more and then center that, and that's about 2 inches, a little bit more, but that's about what it should be from the margin. You've got this exactly right. Again, this doesn't match that up there, but this font does look like it matches this one, and the size and the type, so that's a bonus already. Exactly right. Your abstract would go here, and while you probably don't want that centered all the way down, at some point when your 150 words are done, you're going to have keywords, and then you're going to put 3 to 5 in here, separated by a semicolon, so that when people go to search for your article, they'd know how to do that. On a proposal, in reality, you probably would not do this. I am taking some liberties so that you'll have the practice of thinking about it and doing it, but you will have to be aware that you wouldn't put some things in at the proposal stage. Some things would only go in at the writing of the article stage, which would come after an actual data collection and have some findings to report. But you're exactly right. So here's your first page. So your title should be here. So I'm going to space down. I'm going to write the word title here. So your title of your article or your proposal should be here. Introduction can be here where it is, and that's okay. But if you're going to use question as a subheading, as you are here, you'll probably need to make introduction a subheading because you cannot have a single subheading. Here's your heading. This is your first subheading. Anything under here would be a subheading. Now, you've got too wide of a space here, so I'm going to take that out. I don't normally like to do this correction kind of thing, but I'm trying to speed things along given our time frame. It's a research question, so you'd put that here. So now I'm going to stop because I have this comment box in which I wrote nothing. And what I mostly would say is this is very short. Even for a proposal, you should have 2 to 3 full paragraphs to state what the problem is. So you say from the start, you start off with a broad sweeping sentence. Throughout the past years, women have made great strides in athletics. Well, who says so? What would be an example? So due to recent changes in laws, you'll have to cite the laws. So you have some citations that you need here, and you probably need to flush it out a little bit, like maybe talk about what the problem is. What were the strides that had to happen? Plus, that's an interesting pun. Do you make great strides in everything or in athletics? And that. So it sounds like right off the bat you're making a pun, which you could be, but it may be perceived as being unprofessional to do that so early in the paper. In fact, the first sentence. So you probably need another paragraph under introduction because again, the purpose of introduction is to introduce your reader to the topic and then ultimately to the problem. And then the details of the problem and alternate ways of looking at the problem and different perspectives of that follow in the literature review. Your question doesn't have quotation marks. Who are you quoting? You think you're quoting yourself? That's not quite right, but otherwise it's perfectly. What, if any, differences can be found between female athletes across athletics? That is a very broad question. So you haven't specified the differences. So you want to say, are they financial differences? Are they physical differences? Are they a number of awards won? Are they numbers of people on teams? Are they numbers of people in athletics, period? Or are there the number of teams? Are there more fans that are on Facebook pages than others? So you've got to be very specific here. So I'm going to write the word be specific, and I don't know why it's not coming up in red as it should for track changes. Again, I really don't understand. I've watched this video twice, and the track changes should be quite clear. I don't know if moving away for something made that change, but that's, you want to be specific there. And then across athletics, do you mean from children to young adults, school or extracurricular, domestic and professional, or international and professional, or Olympic, or likewise? These are just some questions that come to my mind. So again, being as specific as you can be in your question will be a good thing. Now, when you get into the details, that's in the methods, you're welcome to do that. This first sentence in the lit review is kind of interesting, but kind of no-brainer too, in a sense. Women have not always had equal rights. That's a sentence in and of itself. So when you go comma, as far as athletics are concerned, it makes it sound like athletics is the only area where women have not had equal rights. And of course, that is a blatant lie, actually. And so at the least, it's inaccurate. And so if you want to say something about women have not achieved equal success, equal financial success, equal recognition, that kind of thing in in national athletics or U.S. athletics or something like that, then you can say that. Are concerned is a passive phrase, so the more active you can be, the more engaged your reader will be. Sometimes it's difficult not to be passive in how you write, but so something about women um, uh, have fared less, um, uh, or women have been, well, see, have been is also passive. Um, Recognition for women is often less than, or media coverage of women's sports is less than, or has been less than, but that's passive. So you have to work with that. I don't think I could spend a lot of time here talking about how to avoid passive tense just to point it out. So here I'm just going to make it red to remind you that I mentioned it. It has only been in the past 20 years. You need citations. You simply cannot do that. You don't need to repeat that, so take that out. That's a done thing. You just said it right 2 sentences above. The answer to this question is simple. You don't, it isn't. If it was simple, it would have been answered. And so you're about to go through some literature review. Title IX. Title IX is not simple. We're having all kinds of troubles with Title IX right now. So you want to be very, very careful of the language you use. So you want to be accurate, precise, and aware of the historic circumstances when you're using certain phrases in your writing. And your point in research isn't to answer yes. You can say yes here, that there are many differences in male and female sports, and then you should say some. List some. You can't assume that your readers know the same things that you know, or believe the same way that you do. So it's your job to inform and or convince people to bring them around to your way of thinking. Laws in recent years have made campuses across a nation distribute. Again, you have to cite the court cases. You have to cite literature that cites the court cases. It's your job. So you have lots of citations to do here that you're missing. And I happen to know this area very well. It's something I fought for and even sued on. So I'm unfortunately for you an expert in this. So I know that there are thousands of articles on this. But whether you look at the law, political science, psychology, sociology, probably less in social work actually, but plenty to go around. And then how to manage a university, managing university athletics, finances in athletics, all kinds of aspects of the law. So to say to me there's very little literature would be, you don't want to do that in that. So, but yeah, I can see you made a choice here. So you've decided Title IX is one of your subheadings, the Office of Civil Rights, and the three-tier test. So um, your lit review does not seem like it is related to the research question. So your research question says what differences can be found, but this literature is laying out the issues of the law and the test. Now, maybe there's a connection there I'm not quite getting, but I would have expected to see articles about, given how the question reads, I would have expected to see literature that focused on um, physical differences or financial differences or benefits in the training or opportunities or the number of seats in college or fan bases or something along that. So differences can be found between male and female athletes, their physical prowess, what athletics they're in, again, their training or their support, or something about their families or what they're able to do or their opportunities for that training, and finances available and sponsorships and advertising and those things. So maybe the question isn't what you mean, or maybe the slit review is not doing what you want. However, I'm open to the possibility that things like this was a law that made great progress in the world for athletics. You want to make sure you check your spelling and that for women, but advantages, spelling. So even a spell check would catch this. So I'm guessing you didn't run it through there. Professional, yeah. So if these were in the final paper, these kind of errors, they'd be a point each off. So just be cognizant of that. I like how you did this, the Office of Civil Rights, and then the acronym. That's correctly done, as is Simon.1995. But let me double check and make sure that you understand about the number of authors. So this is supposed to be references, so we'll fix that. It should be references. It's APA. It has nothing to do with whatever a bibliography does. They're different. This is supposed to be double spaced, so we'll see about helping you see how you do that. And go from there. Simon is a single author, so I'm going back up that page so we can double check that. So you got the university, which would not be capitalized and would be spelled correctly. But Simon is done correctly. Simon's here. You don't want to over rely on one. You got Brown, 2009, title 2009. Pelak. So good. 3. So in a minute I'll look at those and see if they are. So you've got Stafford up here. I don't know why Stafford is underlined, so I'm going to put it in red because I don't know why you have that like that. When you quote, that's exactly right, but then you would take the period out, and then you would put here the page number, whatever the number is. Then you'd have the period here at the end like you have it, actually, and that. So if you're quoting, if you're directly quoting, you can do the way you did it, but just make that kind of a change there. 3-tiered spelling. So that's good. So you move right down there. It's a nice transition for that. Fix your comma. These are minor things. I realize you're unfinished. Unfinished. Or did you mean a period? Maybe. I don't know. That's what that means. Media is not just what is covered on different broadcasts. Now, this is very complex to get into, so you want to be very ready to talk about this because media means a lot of things. Media buys, channels. There's very many aspects to the notion of media, and you only are citing one article twice, the same article twice. So you probably want to add another reference here, citation, I'm calling it, and that. Framing. So you'll want to say what this is. Define this term. You go all the way down here and you don't define the term here. So we want you to do that. Absolutely. That's good. So we'll do that. Let's see. And this view is known as framing theory. Whose is it? The only time women plural, are predominantly featured. Lots of spelling errors. I won't fix them or address them next time. If I'm in a good mood, I'll circle them, but if not, I'll take the points off and you'll have to ask me about them or find them. On that, women. Ellie Smeo used to talk like this: woman, woman this, woman that. She used to be the head of the National Organization for Women, and I wouldn't call her my best friend or even a good friend, but somebody I know and respect, and it's funny. So again, you have this one reference, which is great. You fix that comma, and that you have the ampersand. That's correctly done. One of the things I'll point out is almost all of your references, you're doing them at the end in parentheses, and that's okay, but I don't know if somebody taught you or tried to encourage you not to do something, but you can start out a sentence that says something like PELAC 2008. So you might have, for example, it might say PELAC 2008. So you get the same citation in. Found that this made it a lot easier, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not leaving that in there because it doesn't make sense, and I didn't read the article, so I don't know if that sentence would make sense. But what I'm trying to get across to you is your authors, the authors that you cite, to mix it up a little, you are free to use them in the sentence. It doesn't have to start the sentence. It can be in the sentence. Studies like the one conducted by Brown, and Brown is in the sentence, or Brown and Smith. By the way, if you do Brown and Smith, the and in the sentence is written like a word, but everywhere else it's an and with the ampersand, the sign that you use here, finding as fast as I would like to show you, the ampersand, wherever you have multiple authors. This is called an ampersand, this thing here. So I'll kind of highlight it, but it's good. It's not highlighted because it's wrong. I'm just highlighting it because I'm mentioning it right now. Theory suggests that the inequality of gender in the media supports stereotypes. And so, what's that mean? Media shapes. So, figuring out, explaining things. You can't really presume. You don't have a conclusion yet. You don't have very many references, first of all, and you don't have a conclusion. And the biggest problem of all is that it's unclear to me how your references or your sections, your subsections, are related to your question. I do not know if what you want to do is change your question to best reflect the literature that you have, or if you, in fact, need to tweak how you're talking about your literature and to make it look related to this issue up here about your question, or if, in fact, you will have to change one or the other or look up new literature. I simply cannot tell in that. So I don't know enough about where you're going. So lots and lots of issues on the spelling, more than I would expect to see. Although I am surprised it didn't just auto-correct some of that. But so I'm not even looking closely, but I see many, many, many things. So don't even know what to say about it. So at this point, I agree about this term about lady. That's funny. It's derogatory in lots of ways, not limited to athletics. It presumes something, but it's a good example. And you might put this in quotes since you just put it in quotes before. So what makes the Lady Volunteers different than the rest of the athletic program? And that if it's a question, it should have a question mark. So if it's raising a question, it should be one. And then you should say more about it. There's a place there's definitely a time and a place to be brief and enjoy brevity, and there's a time when going on a long time serves a kind of purpose. But in this case, you're kind of in the middle and you're leaning towards brevity when in fact it's not revealing much about your thinking, about where you're going, and your thinking isn't revealing that you've done very much searching in the literature to support the question. It's your question, you're interested in it, but it looks like you're relying on something, which I'll tell here more in a minute. So if we wish to live, so this isn't a paper, and you don't end a sentence with a preposition. Sure you know that. Um, so you want to rearrange the words so um, it's not ending that way. Sometimes when we speak, we do that in shorthand, but because we have the advantage in our writing to correct it, we generally think of that as an indicator of poor writing to end up with something with a preposition. Let's see. So here you've concluded it as if you've talked about this beautiful thing and come to an end, but you don't have a conclusion like this in a proposal. This is a research proposal, and what's coming next is your method section. So you're going to have a section that's going to be this section, and then it's going to have all these other subsections that are going to tell us how you do your project. But I don't know yet if you're ready to do that because your question is unclear to me. It may not be, it may be clear to you. So you may be ready to say, I want a survey. I'm going to look at all the records at the NCAA for this. I'm going to look at the Olympic records. I'm going to compare men and women at this university or that high school or this league and that. And then, of course, what you'll have to do is get permission for those records or watch videotapes and maybe contact media to watch, to get numbers on how many people attended this or that. So it depends on what you're going to be asking, what you want to compare, what you want to look at, what you want to describe. The world is open to you, but you'll have to do it. It would be great if you had made this connected to the profession of social work. It's very hard for me to see the connection to that. The pursuit of equality certainly makes sense to me. And if the argument you want to make is that because this is an avenue for things like getting out of poverty or demonstrating talents and skills that men have been able to do but women haven't, then that would be a nice frame because you have no language about social work in here at all. And typically, if you were writing something for your discipline, you would say something maybe in the introduction, maybe some literature review. Now, I don't think you'll find that much in lit review for social work, but I could be surprised. If you typed in extracurricular activities or athletics into social work, maybe you would. All that research that I've read comes from other places, but to be honest, I've never done that search. So you might well be served by doing that. But in the introduction, you might say something. Maybe the third paragraph might be that many might consider it unusual for a social work researcher to be looking at such a topic. However, um, uh, because of social work's commitment to social justice, fairness, equality, and this researcher's interest in athletics, um, that the project seems like a natural fit for me, or something, or for this researcher. You don't want to say me or I. So you could kind of make your case that way. I'm not really saying you must make a case. I'm saying that it's a little bit odd to not see a connection to social work, given that it's your major. References is up at the top at the margin. So any of these headings like this are at the margin. This is so big, I can't tell what's happening. It should be the same. The same as the rest of your text. Everything should be double spaced. Everything should be the same. And I can't tell if this is Times Roman. So references, it still seems big. So I'm going to try to get it. That looks more like correct, but correct. Right now, I'm going to put in red the, or I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to underline. No, I'm not going to underline. I'm going to put in red. Oh, I better put them in another color. How about rusty color? Orange. What I see to be the journal name and that. And so far, these are all journals. They're not done properly in terms of APA, but almost. And that. So I don't know where you got your information about how to do APA. You got part of it right, but not quite all of it right. So let's talk about what you got right. You got the name. I'm going to presume at this point, without looking, that this journal is the right name of the journal, though I will check all the names in 6A. There should be a volume number here. So there should be a number here that is also italicized. So even though I've got it red there, it would also be italicized the same as the journal title. So you need a volume number here. And so the reason I think you're not getting dates on a couple of things down here that you had no, we have dates here, but you have no date listed. Oh, I don't, maybe that was somebody else. Sorry, let me go back and look at that again. I'll get that right here in a minute. Let's see. Forget what I said about that. I'm sorry. But you need a number here for the volume. The comma gets fixed here, and then you need the volume number, and then the same is true for here, and then lastly, same is true for here. And then, so I think social science quarterly is right. Wiley spelled incorrectly, and quarterly needs to be capitalized. So get that right. But Wiley, Blackwell doesn't need to be there, and that. So we'll take that out. Should have just struck it through. I don't know what it eliminated it. It's not supposed to do that. So so philosophy is spelled wrong. So you want to fix that. And then the other thing you want to fix is the ofs. There are no capitals on O for of or for or in or a or at. Those are considered small words, and they are not capitalized in the title of the journal. However, the every other word is done. So this way you have correct of and law. That's done correctly. What's not done correctly here, oh, I see this is part of it too, so we'll make sure we get that in there. So the 10th annual blah, I don't know, the 10th annual something of gender and sexuality. So you always have a space after a colon, and then nothing is ever all capitalized like this. So even if you cut and pasted it from somewhere like that, it's not proper APA. Actually, neither is this underline. I don't know why it's underlined. I don't know how to help you take the underline off, but this should not be underlined. You might want to just redo that, cut it out, whatever. I see some arrow showing up for it, and I don't know what that is, but I never see that when I type them. So you must be formatting it from something. So, and I think this double spaced only, but I think I did that, so we'll see if that turns out to be right. In any event, if there's only one author, then E. Brown is correct, 2009, and that in the space. Then this has to be fixed. This is the name of the article, at least it should be, and that punctuation and spelling and all that has to be fixed. 1972 education amendments might well be capitalized. Title of T of title might be, and the capital IX would be capitalized, and that's a little bit unusual. But contrast that to here. How campus media covers sports. The CMCS would be lowercase. This capital T stays a capital. GEI 1 OGL all lowercase. Same here. R B S N P A etc. Opportunities that, unless that's British, which it could be, it's probably not spelled with a U, and that. So I'll just make a note of spelling. Let me try to get the right color here, and that. So gender equity and equality and inequity in athletics. So EIA lowercase. Progress toward T is lowercase. Title IX, keep it tall. Compliance, lower C. Lower E, F, I, E, M. And that. I hope I said that enough. I don't want to say it more, even though you've got the 5 here. Now, what should happen, you've got 2009, 2004, 2008, and 2004. In those that are after 2000 or after, you should have a DOI number. The DOIs, there's a period, then it's DOI colon, and the DOI will be found in the article itself. They will be found sometimes by searching through Google. It's going to be difficult to say where you're going to find it, but the strange thing, because there's not a lot of consistencies in how it is done, that is the unfortunate part for students right now and faculty, that we have to go digging for it. I will not put a DOI here by Simon because it's unlikely that it will be there. 1995 is really before the internet, and the whole point of a DOI is to reflect a direct object identifier, is to help us find things so we can minimize cheating and theft in things. But Journal of Philosophy of Sports is going to assume that you either even if it's electronic, it doesn't mean it has a DOI number. But 1995 probably wasn't electronic back then, but of course now it's still relevant to what you're writing about. So one of the reasons I want to do the video is just what's happening here. There's so many lines. How do you follow them? Which one is telling which thing? And so I thought if I talked through it, it would be easier to follow. You'll need, now these are all scholarly articles. So my catalog right now would say you have 5 in that. So sometimes I get books and reports and other internet citations, and you're free to use them. Can be used, but do not count towards the total scholarly. Why? Because we want you to get familiar with the literature. That means you have to spend some time in it. You have to spend some time in a database. You look around. You have to get to know how it is. If you want to go to the library and just look in actual journals and books, you could still do that. That's real old school, but that's not going to kill anybody to do that. But that's another option. I'm sure I have not identified things here. Basically, I talked about the main things that a person, main things you have to hit for a book right, spacing right, section multiple pages. It's going to push this down, so your references may end up on page 10 or 11. After your references, assuming you have 1 or 2 pages of references, will be your appendix, and that you can see that in the sample or the new video that I just made. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to send you the red form, the form that's marked up here, and then hopefully in this new program I'm going to be able to send you a link so you can listen and watch this in something in YouTube. But you're the first one I'm doing, so I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that that's going to work. I'm going to remove that exclamation point, which doesn't need to be there. Okay, all right, I'll look forward to reading the next version.